What the heck is chemical filtration? Why would you ever want to use it on your tank? If you've ever wondered this question, this is the video for you. Hello, my name is Leslie with MA Fish Gardens, and I'm doing separate videos talking about the different types of filtration you can use or utilize for your tank. There are mechanical, biological, and chemical filtration, and in this video I'm going to talk just a little bit about chemical filtration and what the options are for you. Chemical filtration is a way for you to remove impurities out of the water, whether it's discoloration of the water, ammonia, phosphates, metals, odors, things like that. So chemical filtration may not be used as much as the other types of filtration like mechanical and biological, but certainly something that is useful. It is also a personal preference as to whether someone wants to run it, use it, whether you only use it part of the time, you're only using it to treat something. It just all depends on you as a hobbyist and kind of what your preferences are and why you want to use it, or what are you trying to treat. It's something that you would put in your tank after your mechanical or beyond any type of mechanical filtration, so any filters, sponge filters, because you want any debris out of the water before it goes through your chemical filtration. That way you can maximize the amount of filtration you have, and so it doesn't gunk up the whatever it is you might be using. Now I'm going to talk about the different categories of chemical filtration. Now, this is not a sponsored video, but you will see things that I personally use in my fish tanks, and also things that are readily available if you were to go to the big box stores. Probably the most utilized or used chemical filtration would be carbon or activated carbon. Now, talking about activated carbon, it will remove all types of things. So any type of organic compounds in the water, metals, odors, medications. It will even remove some tannins from the water, and that is the discoloration, that brown or almost tea-like color that comes from driftwood usually. The more driftwood you have, the larger the pieces you have, the more tannins you might have in the water. So carbon would be able to help remove some of that. You can get carbon in pellet form, dust form, or it's already in your filtration cartridge. So if you use a hang-on back filter and you use the cartridges, you have to look because it may have carbon in it, and it sometimes is not super clear that it's in there. Why you would need to know that you have carbon in your cartridge is if you're doing anything to treat or dose the tank, you have to make sure you don't have carbon, because carbon will remove medications and these organic compounds from the water. So you're going against yourself if you've got carbon and you're trying to dose the tank. Quality of the carbon varies greatly depending on the type of form you get, where you get it from. But you can get it in pellet form that you could put more in a filter media bag, or even going towards almost like a rock, fine gravel type consistency. Fine carbon is something you would put more so in something like a reactor. So someone on a saltwater tank would use that, and someone who's running a reef tank that is corals and wants to have pristine water and not have any discoloration in the water to kind of impair or kind of take away from the colors of the tank, might run carbon 24/7. Or they might run it for periods on, periods off, just to help keep up with clearing out the water and making sure they have that crystal clear water. One thing about carbon is you want to give it a gentle wash before you put it in your tank, so that you don't have some of that carbon dust just getting in your tank and it just kind of cloudies it up. Also, with carbon, it's something that gets used up. So it can only bind so much of those organic compounds. So after potentially a couple weeks, sometimes maybe a month, depending on what's going on in your tank, you'll have to remove the carbon and then you throw it out. It can't be recharged or reused. So another form of chemical filtration are resins. You'll see exchange ions, bioplastic polymers, Basically, it is a synthetic absorbent that will take out the impurities from your water and can take out things like nitrates, phosphate, ammonias, discoloration in the water, and it seems to be especially effective with removing tannins from the water. Now, in comparison to something like carbon, it is more expensive, but then you get that trade-off where it's not something that you just throw away. You can get multiple uses out of it. Follow the directions on the bottle as to how you recharge it. A lot of times you just use a bleach. Personal experience, I had to go to something like Purigen to try and remove the tannins from my 400-gallon tank because I had one very large piece of driftwood and another kind of medium size. And with the water changes, I just wasn't able to get enough of it out. I tried carbon, it wasn't pulling it out the best, so then I switched to Purigen. I'm able to reuse it. I've used it multiple times after kind of recharging it by doing a bleach soak, and then you soak it in water that has a lot of prime in it. So one potential method that you could use. One thing to say about some of the resins, some of the options that are out there are a combination of an activated charcoal and even a resin. So just know kind of what you're using and what each one might be beneficial for. So other types of chemical filtration are things that are removing certain types of chemicals or waste products in your tank, like ammonia, even phosphate removers. Now, ammonia is pretty self-explanatory. It's removing the ammonia from your tank. Now, the phosphate removers are something more so to maybe help combat algae, and seems to be more significantly helpful in helping if you are growing corals. And I believe most are an iron base, so you would see something on the packaging that would say GFO or granular ferric oxide. You would use a filter media bag to put it in, to put the remover in, or you would have pads or almost like a filter pad that has the remover in it or embedded in it, or you could use a reactor like in a saltwater tank in a sump. How you would know that, in particular with a phosphate remover, if you're using it to help combat an algae problem, you would know that it needed to be changed if you saw an increase in your algae production. So you're no longer pulling out enough of those phosphates, then it would be time to change it. Now, one thing that, or a couple things I want to kind of say about algae and tanks and planted tanks. So the first is, I think that algae and phosphates kind of have a bad association or a bad rap. Phosphates get a bad rap for the cause of algae outbreaks or not being able to control algae. Probably the number one reason that people will have algae is that they are running their lights too long. The lights are too strong, they're getting indirect light from somewhere else. So not to say that there isn't a phosphate problem, but don't jump to a phosphate remover thinking that's the end all be all. There's probably something that is more likely to be wrong or more kind of out of balance that is contributing to your algae outbreak. Another thing to say is that if you have a planted tank, that you can't remove all of the phosphates from the water. That's something that the plants want to grow. So do you really need it or need to run it all the time with a planted tank? That's something to look at. One other method or one other thing that you can use, kind of touching on the ammonia removal, is something called zeolite. But this is something that you would have to be careful with, because once it's basically used up or bound up by, or bound with ammonia, if you leave it in the tank, it's possible that it could leach that ammonia back into the tank. So if you just set it and forget it and don't pull it out, you may not actually be doing anything. You need to pull it out and get it out of the tank. So these are the major types of chemical filtration that you can use. It's all a personal preference and what you want to do, what you're treating, what type of tank you have, and maybe you only run it occasionally, maybe you never run it. But it's certainly an option that is very helpful to have in your back pocket. Leave a comment or let me know if there's anything that you would like to take a deep dive on, learn about next, or hear a little bit more about. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.